What's up? Welcome in on this lunchtime live on Thursday. You can throw the delay a game flag on us. We were late. That's on me. Can. Nobody heard the can call. But we're here and we've got a lot of shit to do because we're headed into a big weekend. We've got the SEC and the Big Ten still in a pissing contest with a looming deadline for expansion of the CFP being tomorrow. It's still going to be 12 next year. I hate to break it to you. Or I'm breaking you the best case scenario for some of you. Or some of you are trying to do math, as TJ is trying to do. Plenty of stuff to talk about. We've got a lot of assistant coaches making news in the NFL. I think I found the script, the college sports script. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Should we take the Mets seriously? Maybe. I got a text from our guy, Billy V, TJ, before the show started, and he says, and I quote, man, I was really prepared to read this one. Very good, Mike. Way to go. Just ordered my Cam Scattaboo jersey, and Dart is next, going back to my roots and jumping on the Giants once again. More fallout from what happened in Buffalo yesterday. I still can't get over it. I saw you not that long ago, but how the hell are you now that we've turned a new sunset and a sunrise?
Doing great. I see that we're going to see some old faces in old places, so that's interesting. But I don't think the Reaper can give up yet. I mean, we can't. I tell people, don't blame me for decisions I made when I was 8 years old regarding my teams, and so you gotta ride or die at this point.
Our guy Billy V does have the tie back to the Giants, so he's always kind of supported the Giants. And right now, why wouldn't you support the Giants? I mean, holy shit! Speaking of old faces in new places, do you know who the wrestler Mark Henry is, right?
Yeah.
I had to take a double take on this one yesterday as old faces return to new places. That is actually Eric Bieniemy. It is not Mark Henry. He is leaving Chicago and returning to Kansas City. Or is it Kansas or is it Missouri? I don't really know at this point. But Eric Bieniemy back in the house for the Chiefs. Matt Nagy's contract was not renewed. Nagy is a guy we'll talk about here in a second, up for a lot of jobs. I think this is the first step to tormenting the rest of the league once we get a healthy Patrick Mahomes back in there. I have this great growing fear right now, T, that Kyle Pitts is going to end up in a Chiefs uniform. Maybe not this year, but in the second that he gets a chance. And you know what? He might even be eligible to do it this year. But the first step for the Chiefs, T, in retooling and getting back to the mountaintop, if you will, or at least competing at the mountaintop, I got to be honest. I know there's a lot of people that have enjoyed this postseason without some of the usual suspects. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, amongst some others. At the same time, we know that there's two guys that are coming into next season specifically, I think of, T, that are coming off of major injuries. Patrick Mahomes and George Kittle. Two guys that it would not surprise me if both of them are full go ready week one. Also, it would be understandable if they're not, but this is the first step, and I think a major move for the Chiefs because, let's be honest, their offense has not looked the same since this man left.
No, it hasn't. That's been a huge problem, and they got away with it 2 seasons ago, and last season they just couldn't everything caught up to them. Great move. Let's get the band back together. Let's take 1 or 2 more shots at a title and see what happens. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if Fat Pat's ready for game 1. His motivation enough for, like, he didn't want to go out like that. This team was not great. I think the team ran out of gas. Like, I think they just, and this happened to the Blackhawks. You played so many games in a season, over a course of multiple seasons, like 6, 7, 8 seasons, you just run out of gas. And I think that's what happened to the Chiefs. I have no reason to believe that they shouldn't be one of the favorites next year again. And I think this is a great move.
Yeah, and anytime you've got 15 under center, you're going to have a shot at anything. I mean, look how bad they played this year, and they were still in it with what 3-4 weeks left to go. I mean, yep. I don't know what the expectations are going to be. Obviously, the looming decision for them is the future of Travis Kelce, but again, the first building block in putting things back together. I mean, we saw it. And a guy we're going to talk about here in just a second with Robert Saleh returning to the Niners. He's moved on. We'll get to that in a second because I do want to revisit something that you said on last night's program. If you're watching along, feel free to comment along. We'll get as many of them up as we can. Again, follow us on all of our social channels everywhere but Snapchat. Hey, there's some new people watching and we appreciate you. T, why are we not on Snapchat?
We're not on Snapchat because Snapchat sucks and we're not 12.
I showed this picture a few weeks ago and... Actually, I did it. We talked about this picture a few weeks ago. I wanted to bring it back because I think I found the college football script. Nebraska basketball, GBR, as you mentioned last week, still undefeated. And off to a very impressive start in that. Most teams, we can see teams at this part of the year when the early part of the conference schedule is going and everything, and they haven't really played much of anybody. Nebraska, it's not the case. Last night, they get a 10-point win at home, lines out the freaking door around the corner to get into that game. They beat Washington 76-66 to move to 19-0. First in the Big Ten Conference ahead of Michigan, who's 7-1 in the conference, 17-1 overall. And when I'm looking at this, they get a win at Illinois. They have Michigan coming up here on the 27th, actually, so that's 5 days from now. But they've kind of gone through the gamut a little bit. They have a win against Michigan State. They have the win at Illinois. Their non-conference schedule, I mean, didn't blow the doors off of anybody, but this team is very fun to watch. They play a very exciting brand of basketball. And what if this meme is not a meme, but a teller of the future in college basketball? So you know what I did last night. Nebraska basketball is plus 4,000. To win the national title. They are the 7th-ranked team in the country right now and still undefeated, as I said. T, am I crazy? Or should we take this Nebraska basketball team a little more seriously now?
I think we need to see a little bit more in this body of work here. Look, Fred Hoiberg's doing a fantastic job. This program has not won an NCAA tournament game, period. It's a great story. I love seeing it. It's fun for Nebraska to have something to distract them from the whole Dylan Raiola thing. So, yeah, let's see what happens because they haven't been in that environment and they haven't had success there yet. So let's see if they can get some success here. Of course, we say that about Indiana, and Indiana's the same way, though. Their football team hadn't had success, hadn't won a bowl game in 35 years, and here we are talking about Signetti and drinking beers and getting ready for next season.
I've got a Sig thing for us here at the end. Speaking of crawling out from under rocks, I might be crazy. And if you don't know that after 3 years of us building this program together, then I don't know what to tell you. Nebraska is not a volleyball school, Mac. Well, yeah, they are, but they're a basketball school. And speaking of the McKenzie clan, a happy birthday to Mama Mac out there today. 21st birthday, so happy birthday, Mama Mac. I'm not crazy. I think it's got some staying power. Listen, we know Nebraska is not a basketball school, and they haven't been, and I do agree with you. They're gonna have to show me they can do it. But when I'm looking at this list, Michigan, Arizona, UConn, Houston, Purdue, Duke, Iowa State, Illinois, Florida is playing really good basketball right now. Gonzaga, BYU, Michigan State, Kansas, Vanderbilt, Texas Tech, then Nebraska comes in with Alabama at plus 4,000. So a lot of ball left to be played, but a hell of a lot of fun. And maybe, just maybe, the Bobby Knight, Tom Osborne thing. If Indiana football can win a national championship, Nebraska basketball can win a couple games in the NCAA tournament.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. The last time I saw Nebraska basketball play in person, Tyronn Lue was the point guard. That was the last time I saw Nebraska basketball in person.
Most recent experience in the NCAA tournament, 2024, they lost 98-83 to Texas A&M. 8 Division I tournaments, an all-time record of 0-8 for the Huskers. Last night we were talking about this guy, Robert Saleh, and you made the comment, did the Jets not learn anything from Robert Saleh going to a team that's similar to the Jets? And you brought up the fact that there's data points to compare the Titans and the Jets. If you haven't heard by now, I don't know what you've been paying attention to. Robert Saleh is the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I think the situation's a little bit different here because as much as the Titans have been dysfunctional, and that's probably being nice to them, you've got Cam Ward there, a kid who played basically every snap almost the entire season for you, avoided injury in the last week, doesn't have to have shoulder surgery, so that's a positive. I think the hire for Robert Saleh and his offensive coordinator is the key here. I mean, let's think about this if we go back, T. And I know you're not slamming Robert Saleh, not trying to say that you are, but when we go back to this, and if we look at similar data points in New York, I think that there's two things here. One, the Jets are the Jets, and they could screw up a freaking. They couldn't. Any analogy you want to think of.
Absolutely.
Offensive coordinators. Well, Nathaniel Hackett was forced on him in New York because of his quarterback there. So I think the hire of the offensive coordinator is key here. And I do think this time around will be great for Robert Saleh. In worst case scenario, I'll be the second person, not the first person, to welcome him back as the defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers if this thing goes the way we think it might go in 2029. I think he's got a better chance to be successful here. But that offensive coordinator hire is of extreme importance.
Yes, I mean you've got a franchise quarterback to build around. You could use some upgrades and some skill players, but I don't think they're that bad. The defense could probably use some improvement, and that's going to be a strength of Saleh's because that's where he's made his name. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's gonna go sideways. I don't know why he couldn't be just content. You know that team's going to win a title in San Francisco. It's when,
maybe,
not if, and it's how many. Although I saw something funny about your quest for 6 the other day that I'll have to share with you later.
32 years and running, baby.
But I feel like he was in a perfect situation already. He got a second chance to be in a perfect situation and to go and try to accept this challenge and do something with it. I mean, good on him, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on this move. I don't think it's a good move. I think you're right. I think he's going to be back within 3 years.
Yeah, well, yes. And I hope that's not the case because I am a huge believer in Robert Saleh. And I think the 49ers as a whole will be more ready to handle this time than last time. I don't think it's going to take them long to fill that spot there. On the other thing with the 49ers is a healthy 49ers team is still one of the best teams in the NFL. They need to get more speed on the field. They absolutely need help on the defensive line. Those are two extreme important things here. The flip side, we're also talking about a team that's been to 7 NFC title games in the last 20 years and has nothing to show for it other than 2 losses to the Chiefs and a loss to the Ravens. I mean, I think people forget the Harbaugh time in San Francisco was pretty impressive. 3 NFC title games, a Super Bowl appearance. Why the hell Frank Gore doesn't get the ball more than one time when you're inside the 10-yard line with the game on the line, I have no friggin' idea. But I think that window is very small now. And this is probably the most important offseason of their tenure there. As far as the offensive coordinator goes, and we're talking about Robert Saleh's position, the easy fix would have been Mike McDaniel's the offensive coordinator there. I think a matchup with Cam Ward's skills, fantastic. We know by now, as you saw on our social channels this morning, as you heard last night on the program, that Mike McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert are making up what is the most odd trio of 3 people in the history of the NFL. Here's the key. This is what we know so far. These are some of the prominent names on the circle. Obviously, the guy on the lower left, that could pair for Dr. Evil. That's Drew Petzing, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals, who's been hired by the Detroit Lions. So he is off the list there. Top to bottom, for those of you not familiar with faces, Matt Nagy, Jesse Minter, Brian Dable, Drew Petzing already has a job. Gus Bradley, who is the in-house front runner to replace Robert Saleh in San Francisco, and Jim Schwartz, who is a candidate to still be the head coach in Cleveland. I'll say this. This is what we know. If Brian Dable does not get the Bills job, which is, according to Diana Rossini, his preference, the rumor is that he will end up in Tennessee as the offensive coordinator for Robert Saleh, which I think is a tremendous fit for Cam Ward. I think the most interesting name on this list is Jim Schwartz to me, because if I'm Kyle Shanahan, and we want to go back to the 49ers situation for a brief second here, Jim Schwartz and Mike McDonald are the two guys that have made me look like I have no idea what I'm doing. And if Gus Bradley isn't the guy, I am throwing the absolute world at Jim Schwartz if I'm Kyle Shanahan. Is Cleveland dumb enough to let Jim Schwartz leave the building even if he doesn't get the head coaching job? Well, it's Cleveland. I think we answered our own question there. Of this list, though, I'm interested to see where some of those guys end up, because Jesse Minter is the hot name in Pittsburgh, fits the mold of Pittsburgh. Interested to see what the reverb is there. Does Gus Bradley then go back to Los Angeles with the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh? What happens to Jim Schwartz? Some interesting stuff here. Which one of those guys intrigues you the most off of that lineup of what could be a very random album cover now that I'm staring at it?
I've always been a big Gus Bradley guy. He had some time with the Raiders that was, I mean, you know, you talk of dysfunction, but the defense was okay. I think that was the years when he had Spillane at linebacker, and so I'm a big in Gus we trust guy on that list. But Jesse Minter's a name that also brings up some intrigue just because of his, and Mac mentioned it last night, how the NFL is a copycat league. We've seen all the defensive coaches and the defensive success, and so with Jesse Minter, that just adds to where teams are going right now with their head coaching vacancies.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and glad you brought up head coaching vacancies, because here is the updated list of who's still available there. And the easy question would be, T, which one of those jobs is the most desirable? But at the same time, I don't know if there's one that completely stands out to me as desirable. You can say Buffalo, Baltimore, or Pittsburgh, but I think all three of those situations are very unique in the fact that you can go to Buffalo and you can coach Josh Allen, but the power structure and the organizational structure there, I think there's a lot of questions. I think the only guy that makes sense to me if I'm Buffalo in the current state of the franchise, something that will excite the fan base, is Brian Dable because of his ties to the early success of Josh Allen. I think Joe Brady could fill that spot too, but I don't know if he moves the needle like Dable. So when you look at this group of openings here, T, like which one, if you're a guy, and we hear it all the time, and it's true, it's one of 32. Somebody's going to want all 6 of these. Which one is the one, if you're that guy, that is a little bit more than just one of 32 on that list?
That is such a great question, because you look at it and you immediately go to Buffalo and Baltimore because of the personnel. You know, especially the stars there. But, you know, we saw yesterday with Buffalo how kind of like not with it the people in charge are. And in Baltimore, you still have some big decisions to make on that defensive side. That defense could not get a stop this year when it needed one. And that was a problem the entire year. So I see that. I look at Arizona, and you've got a $99 million question there. The decision has to be made on Kyler Murray. I look at Cleveland, great defense. Are you willing to go through a season with Deion's kid and all the nonsense that's going to go with that? The Raiders are the Raiders, but I think you're going to see. I think they're going to give Tom Brady a little bit more autonomy now, especially with this coaching process. You notice that everybody's meeting in Miami. He's leading the charge on this, so that's kind of optimistic. And then who does that leave me with? Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's. I think
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh is actually the most intriguing one because in Pittsburgh, you're going to get a new quarterback. You've got a decent running game. You've got good skill players. If that defense can stay healthy, that's a team. I mean, look what they did this year. They made it to the playoffs. Nobody ever thought they would had a prayer of getting there. I think Pittsburgh is the most intriguing one of the six.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how they handle the situation in Pittsburgh too, because we talked about it last year after the draft. I'm real big on the possibility of what Will Howard could be as a pro, but he's going to need the right offensive coordinator. He's going to need the perfect system, and it's going to be a patience thing. And we know with the quarterbacks in this draft, it's probably not the best draft when it comes to quarterbacks. You know, the Arizona job, kind of interesting because Arizona is a team that historically is cheap and has never really spent money to get a good head coach and has refused to kind of change their direction when it comes to that. We're hearing now that they've brought in Anthony Campanile from Jacksonville. I probably butchered his name, fine Italian fellow. If you saw the video clip of this guy talking to his team, I'm very afraid that I just butchered his name because the guy is a certified psycho, which is the kind of thing that you kind of need if you're Arizona. If you're going to not be able to get the cream of the crop topic or coaches in here, you've got the $99 million question at quarterback, like you just said. You're going to need somebody who's got a couple of screws loose to take the job. And it seems like he's the right guy. They're bringing him back for a second, but as we know with the Cardinals, it's always a question of what the hell they're going to do. And you can say all the right things and win a press conference all you want, but the reality of it is it's not a desirable job. And you've heard this go out. Jordan Schultz talked about this yesterday, and I think he nailed it. Like, you're in a division where you've got to go against McVay, Shanahan, and McDonald 6 times every season. And you're watching the NFC Championship game this weekend with 2 teams from the NFC West in there. And the third place team in that group is a San Francisco team that wasn't healthy all year. It's not a desirable job at all. And it's going to take somebody, again, with a couple of screws loose. And it'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of interested to see what happens here with a couple of these names that are still involved. Obviously, Sean McVay's got a couple, and Chris Shula and Nate Scheelhaus there that are drawing a lot of interest. Davis Webb, the Broncos quarterback coach. So I'm really interested to see how all this stuff finishes. About 4 or 5 minutes from now, we'll get into our 6-pack, our 2 same-game parlays for NFC and AFC Championship weekend here. But, we haven't gotten a chance to talk a lot of baseball. I think we might need to take this guy seriously because every time he looks in that magic bag there, the Mets are adding something else. I think we need to take this team kind of seriously. Peralta, Devin Williams, Marcus Semien, Luis Robert, George Polanco, Bo Bichette. I almost said Dante Bichette. Talk about aging yourself.
That would be awesome.
The Mets needed a clubhouse overhaul. They've definitely done a clubhouse overhaul. They might not be done yet. You see how aggressive they are because Brandon Sproat, a guy they sent in the Peralta deal, which literally came down as we were getting off the show last night. If you missed it, Brandon Sproat amongst another prospect to the Brewers for Freddie Peralta. And I'm interested to see kind of how this thing lays out. We talked about the Phillies a couple weeks ago, kind of being asleep at the wheel, losing Ranger Suarez. They still have Bohm. They still have Castellanos. They still have a million questions. We know the Braves out of default are going to be better. We're assuming that. But law of averages tells you with a healthy set of players for the Braves, they're going to be a factor here. I think this Mets team, I'm kind of bullish on them. The interesting thing is the Bichette contract, which... And he was asked about this in his press conference yesterday because it has some very favorable opt-outs for a 28-year-old where he can basically make it a one-year deal. And he chose to not answer the question, deferred to his agent there. So I'm interested to see how that works. But let's call the reality the reality. You win in New York, it doesn't really matter if Bo Bichette opts out after this year or not. I like the makeup of this team. I question a first-time third baseman in Bichette and a first-time first baseman in Polanco. One of their keys is preventing runs, so putting 2 guys that have never played those 2 positions on the corners is not really a sound strategy there, but we'll see how it plays out. But I'm really starting to kind of buy what the Mets are selling here.
I mean, look at the betting odds. You can tell that people are buying what they're selling. They're plus 180 right now on DK to win the division, and I would take that in a second. My concern is we've seen this before from the Mets, and what did it get us? Well, they got a couple of playoff appearances and no parades. But like you said, if you win in New York, they'll name schools after you, man. And that would be a huge. This would be a huge coup. I think I know why Bo Bichette doesn't want to answer those questions, because he might only see 1 year of this contract if things keep up the way they're going.
Boba Shit has another year like he did last year, and he does it now in the National League. I think he can write his check anywhere he freaking wants to go.
He was amazing for the Jays. I'm convinced he's 100% the reason why they got as far as they did, and it's unfortunate that he was out for much of that postseason. But I mean, he's a difference maker, and I'm sure the Jays were sorry to see him go, but the Jays have been just as busy this offseason too. So I don't see them slipping up any at all in the AL East.
No, not at all. By the way, last note on baseball here before we transition into some football. Shout out to my uncle right there.
Is that a Yomiuri Giants hat?
It is a Yomiuri Giants hat. He was doing some stuff. He's a movie actor, so he travels the world quite a bit, and he got a chance to do a stadium tour and everything. They weren't there when he was there, but he picked up a Yomiuri Giants hat for me and Pop. So shout out to my uncle. Hat rack provided by the wifey. Got it up literally right before we started the show. So you're going to see a lot of rotating random shit up there. I can guarantee you that.
I like rotating random shit.
Rotating random shit works. Speaking of, hey, I just win. Google me. Well, shout out to Google. If you see it, you see it. And if you don't believe me, type Kurt Signetti into Google. You're welcome. Just like, I can't get enough of this story, man. Sig's a guy I want to sit down and have a beer with. And again, I can't, and maybe it's, and I almost said fluke, and I'm not talking about Indiana being a fluke, but maybe it's a fluke thing that Indiana put together this kind of year, and then it goes back to your traditional Blue Bloods next year. I don't think that's the case. And I love that the message it passes along for college sports in general. We were just talking about Nebraska. Do I think Nebraska is going to win the basketball national championship? No, I don't. But you can't argue with the start, and at plus 4,000, it's worth a $5 bill, a $10 bill here. I love the message that it sends, and I hope that we see more of that going forward. Now, will that help the, ironically, James Madisons and Tulanes when they get into the college football playoff? I don't think that's ever going to be the case in college football, but I think we can see these teams, like, I'll use a personal example for next year. Florida with John Summerall. I love John Summerall. I love what he's all about. I love the staff he's put together. I love some of the guys that they have coming in. Florida's plus 8,000 win the national championship in football next year. Do I think they can? No, but after watching Indiana, is Florida worth $5, $10 on a future? I think absolutely, because it can be done. And we'll see what happens. Again, I'll have more on Lunchtime Live tomorrow, whether we have expansion or not, because the deadline is today to make that determination. It doesn't sound like we're going to.
And here's the other thing with Florida. They've done it before. And so they have that street cred, right? Where you know that if they get the right personnel in there, they are going to be a force in the SEC. I think it's great value. If you're looking at it in January 2026, I think it's a hell of a value. I wouldn't be surprised to see Florida have a great season and maybe finally knock off Georgia in that game. But yeah, Indiana has definitely opened up a lot of doors for teams. And, it's these teams that, I'll take mine for example, who are marketing themselves right now as come here so you can get your next big paycheck somewhere else. Maybe it turns around a little bit. And maybe your next big paycheck is in the same spot that you went to.
Yeah, what a concept, right? Plenty of stuff to follow as that goes along. We'll keep you updated. Again, I'll have more on the expansion, non-expansion. I don't think it's going to get expanded right now because the two powers that control college football are not on the same page. Shocking. We've got an AFC and NFC championship game. It'd be awkward if we had two AFC championship games. But our first game on Sunday takes us to Denver, which should have been Foxborough, but the Raiders screwed that up. The Raiders helped the Broncos. That's how weird this football season was.
Go figure, right? By the way, I just wanted to bring one more before we get into this game, because Remember, you talk about the Cardinals not being a desirable. They had Sean Payton in the building. They
Mm-hmm.
had him in the building, and they could have offered him a contract, and they let him leave without it. Think about
Yep.
if Michael Bidwell had that piece of paper ready for him when he got there.
Well, hell, I mean, shit. They had Peyton in the building. They had Peyton Manning in the building.
Yep.
They had Joe Montana on his way to the building, but forgot to unlock the gates. It's been a clown show 24/7, and we talk about it with the Cowboys, we talk about it with the Raiders. They're never going to change until it's out of the family's hands, and nobody pays attention to the fact that the Cardinal situation is probably not going to change until it's out of the Bidwell family's hands, because the Cardinals are terrible every year. They've won the fewest amount of playoff games out of any team in the history of the NFL. It is what it is. I mean, you can get plenty of people in the building. All they're doing is using you for leverage because they know you're not serious. Your practice facility looks like some of the temporary classrooms that I went to when I was in grade school. I mean, I know they fixed some of this, but hell, a couple years ago they were charging players for meals. Like, what are we doing here? Like, a perfect prime example, but because they suck, nobody really pays attention to it.
Exactly, completely unserious.
So we've done this thing, if you've been following long enough. We did the 12 days of Bowls Miss. We went 9-4. TJ and I make our picks on a set of games for X days. Obviously, less to choose from here, but 9-4. And the picks for the same game that we were different on, we used the scientific method of flipping a coin. You laugh, but we went 9-4. We did it again in the wild card round. We went 4-2. Last weekend was rough. We went 3-3 between the divisional round and the national championship. So now, how do we do this? Well, we've got two games. We've got a side or a total. We've got a player prop. We've got a touchdown score for each game, and we're going to try and nail this down in our final week that we can really do this. We got some fun stuff planned for the Super Bowl and everything, but let's start with the AFC Championship and a matchup of Sean versus Mike, offense versus defense. Max gravy train ride on the Patriots bandwagon. Sean Payton with Jared Stidham here, and everybody's going, there's no way with Jared Stidham the Broncos have a chance in this game. I will remind you that the first thing that Sean Payton did when he got to Denver was go out and get Jared Stidham. There's a reason for that, and I know he hasn't thrown a pass in years, and I get it. I understand all of that. But I also have a lot of trust in Sean Payton, the coach. I also understand the stat that no coach that's won a Super Bowl has ever won one in his second stop. So there's a lot of different variables here. We know the Patriots' success. I've said it a couple times this week, and I will stand on this fence. This is the line I will draw in the sand, that if Drake May plays the way he has in the first couple of weeks of the playoffs, and he does it against this Denver defense on the road, it's not going to be a fun afternoon for him here. First thoughts, Patriots, Broncos. What is something that jumps off the page as a decisive factor in this game when you're thinking about it?
It's really going to be which of these defenses steps up and makes life difficult for the other offense. And we've seen, I know that people have said, oh, Buffalo put up 30 points against the Broncos. Buffalo's freaking good, okay? They don't have a star wide receiver, but they were running all over Denver like it was a bodily function. And Josh Allen is Josh Allen. So yeah, they're lucky they only put up 30, and they only put up 30 out of their own accord. They would have put up more if they had not gacked it up. I don't think Drake May has seen this type of offense this year. So this is going to be fun to see what kind of game plan they have. And I started thinking about it after the show last night, and I think your guy Booty might be in play this week.
It's always great to grab some booty, especially when there's so much on the line. Grabbing booty is the way to do it. And he's made me a lot of money this year. There is another Patriot that I love this weekend for a touchdown. All right. Side and total, I've got the first half over 21.5. You like the Broncos plus 5.5, which some of those numbers are disappearing. So if you love the Broncos at plus 5.5, and remember this, here's another tip for you from our guy Jared Smith. And this is very key, especially when it comes to the NFL. You see the lines at the beginning of the week. Wednesday and Thursday is when you start to see some definite movement because that's when the limits expand. That's when the sharps get in and they get to pound a side of the number. So you got to kind of play this one smart here. So you like Denver plus 5.5. I like the first half total over 21.5 here. So pull out the unvirtualized coin. Damn, you can't get
Brand
pennies in
spanking
California
new.
either, can you?
Brand spanking new. All right, here we go. It's just a regular 2023 version quarter here. So let's see. Heads it's you and tails it's me. And it is tails. It looks like we're going with Denver.
Denver plus 5.5 is the play. Player prop wise, I'll let you get started here because I'm so shocked at which way you're leaning player prop wise in this game. Why don't you tell the fine folks out there?
Well, I'm picking Will Lutz over 6.5 kicking points, and it's more so that they're playing this game at altitude, and so what that does is it allows your area for potential scoring to increase a little bit because that ball flies through the thin air. So it's more likely to see a 55-yard attempt in Denver rather than a 55-yard attempt in Jacksonville, unless you're Mr. Little there. So I went with over 6.5. You get 2 field goals and an extra point. Boom, it covers.
I like it. I went with Hunter Henry over 42.5 yards, tight end for the Patriots here. I think we know what the Broncos defense brings to the table. Obviously, as we talked about X factors the other night, Nick Benito is my X factor here. And I see a lot of, oh shit, here comes Nick. Here's a little dump off. And Hunter Henry, we know, is very effective with yards after the catch there. The other thing we know about the Patriots offense, because they have so many usable weapons on that offense, it's really hard to kind of dial into player props when it comes to the Patriots side. So flip the coin.
All right, here we go.
I caught a burp there. That was a hell of a reception to start the week.
Good job. It's heads. We're going with Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry over 42.5 receiving yards. Now it's time for everybody's favorite thing. If you missed our touchdown trio last night, Mac is going with the Patriots defense. I'm going with my dog, Little Jordan Humphrey. And you went with
AJ
who was
Barner.
yours?
AJ Barner.
AJ Barner, that's right, because we had a good laugh about that last night. I'm going with Demario Douglas here. He's another guy on the Patriots that seems to be the big playmaker. You saw it last week. It's made me some good money. I think the number is highly inflated on him at plus 440, so I like it. Who's your touchdown scorer? And then let's flip away.
I made it simple because I think the Broncos are going to go a little more with Stidham under quarterback. I think they're going to make it a little bit more simple as far as the offense goes. So I went with RJ Harvey.
All right, flip the coin.
All right. With a little head nod to your boy, little Jordan.
Little Jordan.
It's heads. We're going to go with Douglas.
Demario Douglas. That one's going to pay pretty. So that one is a plus 1432. I saw this picture last night, T. Lumen Field last night.
Beauty.
Brian McMillan. I want the game played in that right there. I mean, just I haven't been to Lumen yet. I went to T-Mobile. Obviously, you can see the side of Lumen from there. The seats I had at T-Mobile for the game, I was staring right at that clock tower there. I can't wait to go to a game at Lumen. You know it's going to rock this week. And these two teams that know each other very, very well, these two gentlemen that know each other very well, and another matchup of Mike versus Sean, offense and defense here. First half, I'm under 23.5 in this game. I can't hammer that thing enough. I've hammered it in a lot of different places. You like the Rams on the money line here. Tell me why before we flip.
I like the Rams on the money line because the game they played in Los Angeles, I thought they took Sam Darnold completely out of the game. He threw 4 interceptions. They looked horrible. They still had a chance to win at the end, but the Rams defense was very impressive. The game they played in Seattle, the Rams were in control for 48 minutes of that game. And then the whole thing went to hell for them. So I think that I think Matt Stafford's he's just in one right now, and he is just going to find a way to make it happen.
It'll be interesting. That's for damn sure. The numbers so freaking split down the middle. So all right, let's give a flip here. First half
All
under
right.
23.5 or the Rams on the money line. This is probably the most split we are on all of these actually.
It's heads again. You are crushing. We're going under.
Well, I'm either crushing or right now set up to be the sole reason this doesn't hit. Player props in this game. I'll let you get started with yours.
I'm taking Sam Darnold under 234 and a half yards passing. Last week, yeah, it was a blowout. So they just started running the ball. I don't think he got over 150 yards last week. But if the Seahawks game plan is to run the ball, they are going to do everything they can to run the ball. I don't see Darnold coming up with enough pass completions to get to that 234 number. I just don't. I think he's probably going to throw the ball 25 times.
Yeah, and with the oblique injury, it's definitely something to kind of wonder and how it goes. All right, I see a potential disaster happening here, so we're not going to flip a coin on this one. We're going to go with Sam Darnold under 234 and a half yards. I like the play a lot, and honestly, that was very close to high on my list. The play I like in that game a lot because we're going to see a hell of a lot of them because of what happened to Zach Charbonnet is Kenny Walker over 17 and a half yards receiving. I've also played that on my own. So let's get into
Love it.
touchdown scores here on this game. I'll get started here because this is kind of interesting. We're on the same position for the same team with different guys. The utilization of the tight ends for Sean McVay.
Yep.
You're going with Colby Parkinson, a former Seahawk. Why do you like Colby Parkinson?
Because he's not Tyler Higbee, and that's who you picked. I don't.
It's true.
I thought I saw the Rams utilizing Parkinson a lot towards the end of the season, and you know that Stafford's going to try to spread that ball out. Yeah, he's got his main guy in Puka, but I love what they do when they get in close with Devontae, and I love what they do around the 10 to 15 with the tight end. So I'm going with Parkinson because I think he's due for one this week. I went with him last week too, and he had a couple of chances but couldn't quite get it done.
Yeah, Rams tight ends and Patriots position players have been the two hardest groups to choose in this whole mess right here. So I did go with Tyler Higbee. It seems like every time I've bet on Colby Parkinson, Tyler Higbee scores or takes some touches away from him,
Yep.
which means most likely Terrence Ferguson will be the tight end that scores for the Rams this weekend. So go ahead and flip this one. Higbee or Parkinson?
I will lose my mind if that happens. Tails, let's go, Colby.
All right, that makes me feel a lot better. I'm probably still going to bet on all three Rams tight ends to score a damn touchdown.
Well, I mean, the return is still good either on all of those, but didn't Devontae lead the league in 1 yard touchdown receptions this year? I think he did.
I believe he did, yes.
He had like 9.
This is interesting here. All right, so I just put this whole thing together. We're playing Darnold under 235 and a half because that's what this site has him at. So we get a bonus yard to go under, and it is a no sweat weekend on this site. So the AFC Championship game plus 1432. Broncos plus 5.5. Hunter Henry over 42.5 yards receiving. Demario Douglas for a touchdown. We'll call that the Mike game. The NFC Championship game, first half under 23.5. Darnold under 235.5. Colby Parkinson anytime touchdown. We'll call that the T game. So the NFC Championship game plus 1290. AFC Championship game plus 1432. The whole thing together plus 21,200. So $10 will make you a lot of freaking money. And if you're on the same site that I'm on, you might have a no sweat token there. So why not take it at no sweat? All right, final question here since we got like 2 minutes left. The Super Bowl, when we start talking about it briefly next week, because we're not going to be one of those shows that talks about it all week next week and has nothing to talk about the week of the Super Bowl. We will recap what we see on Wednesday. But the Super Bowl, is it Mike versus Mike? Is it Sean versus Mike? Or is it Sean versus Sean?
I'm gonna go with Sean versus Sean. I think that's the only matchup of the 4 that we haven't seen before, and I think it would drive you bananas to see the Rams playing on your field But I believe the last time the Super Bowl was on your field, the Broncos were there.
The Broncos were there, and Cam Newton was not for a very important fumble. I'm saying Mike versus Mike is how this ends up. And maybe this Seahawks team will be smart enough to run the ball from the 1 yard line if that happens.
Oh my God.
I think I just pissed off the wife pretty good on that one. Any final words for you on your go home show for the week?
Well, did you see we can break some more baseball news just now?
Oh no, I didn't. Why don't
The
you drop it
Texas
on us?
Rangers have acquired Mackenzie Gore from the Washington Nationals in a
Ooh,
multiplayer deal.
interesting. You know what? We were waiting this whole time for the baseball offseason to kick into high gear. Apparently, you just need to watch this show all the way through to the end. That is 2 consecutive shows that baseball news has broke during the show. That is impressive shit. Right there, that's how we go. Boom, we out. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. TJ will have more thoughts on the AFC Championship game Sunday morning. Mac will have the NFC Championship game, and we'll have some stuff throughout the weekend there for you. Next week, full slate of shows Tuesday and Wednesday night, Thursday and Friday in the daytime. For everybody behind the scenes, for Vegas Mac, for T, I'm Mike. You know the drill. We'll talk with you tomorrow. We're out.